So thank you for coming out on this chilly day to spend some time together. How about it? It was great. I just want to tell you a little about the Ozark Folk Center State Park, which is up in Mountain View, Arkansas. It's only 2.5 hours from here. And it's where people are making things with their hands. They're spinning, weaving, making knives, blacksmithing. It's a grand place with wonderful music. You can understand the words. It's banjos and fiddles and dulcimers, and there's classes to take, and it's just something for everybody. Little peoples all the way up to Rhodes Scholars. So if you go to the website, you can see lots of things, but if you take a calendar home today, you'll see the cover page is me and my donkey. Me and my donkey. We were out gardening together. He was taking care of the high grass, and I was taking care of the weed trees. So that's that. And then the Creative Herbal Home is the first section of this class. I thought, what I'm going to do is come and demonstrate how easy it is to play with the essential oils from herbs using common household ingredients to make life a lot more comfortable. And I truly am a gardener and make my living outside almost year-round. Actually, I'm a fair weather gardener. I enjoy it when it's blazing hot, and I enjoy it when it's about 40 degrees. And that at that point is my break point where I want to go in and sow seeds on the computer or in the greenhouse. And at the Folk Center, we do have big greenhouse and some hoop houses under plastic that are unheated. And I brought my buddies from there to show you what I've done, some recipes to make the Mediterranean herbs more comfortable in their captivity in the Ozarks. So, with that said, the thing is, essential oils are like the most concentrated form of herbs that you can get. You know, you can make a tea or an infusion, you can make a decoction, you can make a tincture using alcohol, but the essential oils is a distillation where they take the flowers or the leaves or the roots and they put it in a vat with boiling water. The heat makes steam, and the essential oils are carried into the steam because the cells are broken in the plants. It carries that steam up, and then just like making corn liquor, it condenses down into a container, and the essential oil floats to the top. So this little small container might have just a dab of essential oil on the top from 100 pounds of herb. And that's why I say it's so concentrated. And so the rosemary and thyme and oranges and apples and nutmeg and all those plants that you think of that immediately makes you think of a smell, it's because they have essential oils in them, and they're very chemically complex. But with their complexity comes their usefulness. So if you're a plant, the reason you're making essential oils in your tissues is to keep away grazing animals, or it may be to attract pollinators, or it may be to help you heal up wounds or maybe control diseases. But for people, we've just went off into whole other directions with it. And in my life, I use the essential oils for common problems like toenail fungus, like insects invading me when I'm trying to get my work done in the garden, or for making my life more pleasant in not only its smell, but in the way the smell helps me to feel. And so I brought my favorite 8 essential oils, and I thought I'd kind of pass them around while I talk to you about their safe use. Now, first of all, because they're so concentrated, it's very important to dilute them when you use them. And this first one right here is lavender. Now, the dilution I figured out all kinds of ways to dilute them and to carry them. And usually, one of my first favorite ways is to use a seed oil, like olive oil, cold pressed, not something hard to get. And it's healthy for food, and if it's healthy for food, then I feel that it's healthy on my skin. So I'm going to kind of send this lavender cap around for you to smell. So if I put a few drops of lavender essential oil in a carrier oil, then it's dispersed, and I make a whole lot of scent with just a few drops of essential oil. And then I also get the benefit of the carrier oil. The next one that I want to send around is geranium. And this one is rose geranium, and the rose geraniums are not like the big red Mexican geraniums from Mexico that you see in people's gardens. Well, you do see scented geraniums in people's gardens, actually more and more all the time. We try to help that happen. But they're from South Africa, and they're actually grown for their scent and for their leaf varieties. And so the rose geranium has a chemical constituency that's very similar to roses. And to make the essential oil of roses from the petals of roses is quite hard to do, and so it makes a real expensive essential oil, whereas the rose geranium makes gobs of leaves, and so you can just do it a lot cheaper. So at first they like to use the rose geranium as an adulterant almost, but then they just came clean with this is what this is, and we find that it's very useful in oil and put on the body to keep gnats back. And if you're a gardener, you know how irritating it is to have gnats buzzing you. And so this truly does just kind of keeps them over there on the other side of the brim of your hat. So I use it quite a lot. And then tea tree oil is one that's been in the public eye for quite a while because tea tree, there's a lot of businesses that have figured out ways to market tea tree in laundry detergent and in toothpaste and all kinds of ways. And so I just get a tea tree oil and keep it around. And this is one that I personally use neat or straight right on a trigger bite, or right on a tick bite, or right on my toe where my toenail fungus is, because it stops the itching and it stops secondary infections. And so I find it's really a handy essential oil to use. So we'll send around the tea tree. That's the lavender. Vetiver. Now vetiver oil is, instead of from leaves or flowers, the vetiver oil is from an Asian grass that from its roots. And the roots plunge deeply into the soil, and it really likes sandy soils. And they use it to reclaim land that's been used as a toxic waste dump. They use it to save beaches from washing away in tropical places where it is even semi, like New Orleans. I just know down in South Louisiana that this plant can be used to hold sandy soils. And the roots plunge down, even in Arkansas in one season. The roots went down so far deep that I couldn't possibly, even with all my might, dig up the roots as far as they went down. So they grab the soil, but those roots are so full of this yummy fragrance, and it's a base, deep smell that's used a lot in manly products for the bath and cologne and such. But it's also a great insect repellent. And so they take those roots in India and weave the long roots into mats, and they moisten them and hang them in the windows, and it catches a breeze. And the air is cooled by that moisture, but then it's also scented with that good smell. So vetiver is one of my most favorites. And then cedar. And I joked, You know, I've stood under cedar trees and had ticks fall down on me.
They bungee jump.
Yeah, they do. They love it. But if I put cedar in my carrier oil and I apply it to my skin, then, you know, the cedars don't seem to bite me. Cedars don't bite me. The ticks don't seem to bite me, or at least they wait around a while, long enough for me to discover they're there so I can crush them, get rid of them. So cedar is one of my go-to herbs for insect repellency. And I like the way it has that. It's just got a really good earthy kind of a smell. And then one of my favorite, more exotic and precious oils I brought is sandalwood. And sandalwood is one that I save for special occasions and might use in a massage oil or in a bath oil. Love sandalwood. And it's an insect repellent, but I don't want to use it up repelling insects. And then patchouli. So patchouli is from a plant that is really tropical. It hates cold weather. Right now I've got it on a heat mat in the greenhouse. It's like, because it just winds around. But we can grow it. We can, as long as we're willing to keep it above about 50 degrees at all times. And it makes a lot of foliage in our Arkansas gardens if we plant it right in the soil. But then you want to hurry up and either take cuttings or bring it into the greenhouse even before the leaves start to change colors in the fall here. It's just really a complainer. But the reason we love patchouli, some of us, is because it reminds us of our youth.
Where's it grown?
It's indigenous to India and in Asia, in India, in warmer climates. So patchouli leaves were packed with books to keep away book bugs. They were used in Indian sweaters, and the oil was used to scent the wood for packing crates for these Indian shawls, and it was a signature smell. It was put in Indian ink, and you just would know it back in the Victorian era. But then the Brits started doing knockoff Indian shawls, started stealing that idea, and you could tell the difference by the smell. But then the Brits got onto that and started adding patchouli oil. So that's kind of some of the ancient history. But back in the 70s and 80s, so if you went into a head shop and you'd look around and you'd pick up essential oils and smell them, and this is one a lot of people walked out with. So it's got an undeniable fragrance. So if I'm using patchouli at all, I'm just using a little bit and I'm mixing it with other things. So people would think maybe that's patchouli, but maybe not. So keep them guessing all the time. Okay, and then eucalyptus. Now, the eucalyptus is one of the workhorses essential oils in my house because it opens the sinuses, and it's said to kill dust mites. And so, I don't know about you, but I don't want no dang dust mites. So I wash the floor with it, and I put it in alcohol in a little sprayer bottle, and spritz everywhere it's kind of dusty, and then I'll use that same alcohol with eucalyptus and a little patchouli on my books, to clean my books and get the dust and bad old bugs off of them, and always just really wonderful. And then if a head cold's coming on, I'll just get in the shower and put on that hot water and just drop a few drops of the eucalyptus in and just get a big steam, and it just opens me up without a doubt. And then, when you're cleaning a dusty house, if you have the eucalyptus going, it's like, it just gets it all going, it's just lovely to have. So eucalyptus, but The other thing, it's one of the major insect repellents in my toolkit that I like to just keep around and put it in my oil from time to time. So, as oil is a carrier for the essential oils, so can powders be. And so I came up with this idea that because I'm a gardener, I run around with wet feet a lot in boots and so forth, and I just want to kind of take care of my feet because they hold me up. And so I thought maybe it'd be nice to take cornstarch, which is absorbent, and baking soda, which is a neutralizer, put them together with some tea tree and lavender, and my feet would smell better. And I can put it in my shoes, and my shoes will smell better, whether I'm wearing them or whether they're in storage. And so this has been a really handy tool for me over the years. And it's really simple to make. Whoop. Just take a 1/4 cup of the cornstarch, put it in the bowl. And a 1/4 cup of the baking soda. Inexpensive too. This doesn't cost anything to make, hardly. Oh, I have just enough. And just take my spatula and just kind of mix it up a little bit. And then 10 drops each of tea tree and lavender. Now the lavender, the reason I'm putting it in my foot powder is because it smells good. And lavender has got a Latin name, lavandula, and lavandula means to clean. So it kills bacteria. So that's good for feet. It's good for anything. So I'll just go ahead and relax my feet with this lovely lavender. Sometimes my measurements are not precise. I try to stay close. And then here's the tea tree. And then let's take this and mix it up really nice. I mean, I don't even have to cook. Just mix. But as we've gone along in time and people are into making their own stuff more and more, then we just heard in the this morning that a person can go to the Whole Foods store or go to their website or through Frontier was the name of the place and get your own brand new spice jars, or of course you can use ones that you already have used the herb out of it or the blend or whatever and save them around, because it's nice to be able to just shake the powder right in onto your feet or into your socks or whatever. On out. No, it's pretty, not bad for a made-up thing. Yeah, it's going. So, I have.
Do you have any particular oil company that you like, or do you just buy like your oils at like Whole Foods? Or?
For my daily use herbs, essential oils like a foot powder or an oil that I'm going through this stuff and I've got a gardener's wage to live on. I go for what I've got locally at our little health food store, and it's Now, and it works perfectly fine. But I've got a collection of really wonderful essential oils, and they're so wonderful that I was actually in Portland, Oregon, and talked to the essential oil company, and the guy goes to the country, to the people who grow the plants, and they bring out the distillation unit and they make it. And so that's pretty well connected to the person who knows the quality of plants and how to really do things. So if I can get something like that and have me a little treasure, I'm going to do it. And I know that there's essential oil companies out there that are all kinds of like Amway sort of companies, yes. And I can't speak to the quality of their essential oils, but I know they are. And so that hasn't been my walk. That is not to say they don't have a good thing going on. It's just I haven't done it.
Dana, would you tell us again how you get the essential oil?
Okay, so from the leaves, say from patchouli, I wasn't that neat with this particular outfit here, but from patchouli, they'll take the leaves and take them to a big still, and they put the leaf in with water, and sometimes it's held by a basket, the leaves are, and the water boils and it steams up through it, and other times I think they use alcohol. That there's different processes, but in the end, what they're doing is they're heating a liquid, and the steam is going through the leaves, which ruptures the cells that are holding the essential oils, and the essential oils in those little leaf packets are, that's the wrong word, but it's okay, you got the idea, and it breaks, and then it gets in with the steam, and then the whole thing condenses and cools, and then it drips into a container. And what you have is a whole lot of water that smells great, and that's called a hydrosol. And then the essential oil floats because it's lighter, and it comes up to the very top, and then they siphon off the essential oil. So strong stuff. I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time, but I don't want y'all to think I'm really too messy. Okay, so then when you take the lid and pop it on there, then you have a little bit of a controlled shake.
That's cool.
Thank you. And so this can be handy and right there by your sock drawer or in your sock drawer, making your sock drawer smell good, and then you just dust it right on your feet or into your socks or into your shoes or both or all of the above, and it's going to help keep those athlete's foot fungus back, and it's going to take care of the toenail fungus a little bit. And it's not like it's going to cure anything. It's just going to help. It's going to help. And then it's tea tree. Yeah, and you've got the recipe right there. That sugar scrub there. So I'm going to make a label for that here in a little bit, but right now I'm going to press right on into the insect repellent oil, which I'm not going to make because I've already made it. This little sprayer right here is something I can pick up at any drugstore, and the base, the carrier, is olive oil because that's really economical for me, and the repellent oil that I put in there is the rose geranium. And I get up in the morning, and before I'm dressed at all, I take this oil and just put it right into my palm, and just take it and put it on every bit of skin I have. I tell you what. So it's not uncomfortable, especially if you start before daylight, to put this oil on, and it smells pretty great, and you have all those happy thoughts that no gnats are going to get you because it is rose geranium. And then I get dressed and I tuck my boots, tuck my pants into my boots, and I wear a hat and gloves, and I protect myself because I'm going to be out there all day, and I'm not going to suffer through a summer. It's just against my religion to suffer through the summer doing my job. Yep. Yep, it will. And I'll be out there talking at the Ozark Folk Center, talking to people, and they're being buzzed and bit, and just like standing all pleasant. I should share this with you, but instead I'll just take some fresh patchouli or fresh pennyroyal and mash the leaves up and just show them. Or have you ever seen the American Beauty Bush? You know, the calicarpa with the purple berries? Take the leaves off of that and mash them up and put the juice of that on your skin. And just watch. Prove to yourself how good an insect repellent that one is.
For mosquitoes?
Yeah. There you go. So,
Jewelweed also?
jewelweed's for the bite.
Oh, for the bite. Once
Yeah.
you've already bitten you.
Yeah. So that's all right too. It's good to know that. Okay, so I might have the rose geranium. Nice, huh? Some people go, wow, you smell so lovely. I said, repelling insects. So back in the day when I was using a lot of citronella and orange oil and eucalyptus, that was my big three I'd mix together and put in oil. But then I was like repelling people. It did help with the insects, but the folks didn't want to hang around much. It's good if you're trying to get your work done, but not if you're trying to talk to folks. So, I've used cedar and patchouli together as a kind of a different way to approach it. It's just once you get to playing with these things, your imagination is the limit. But here's the only thing I want to tell you about that. If you have a tendency to be allergic to things, fragrances or products on your skin break you out, then before you put it all over your body, please do me this favor and put 3 drops of the essential oil in a tablespoon of a carrier oil, and then put it on a bandage and put it on the inside of your arm and tape it there and do an allergy test. And that way, you're not mad at me and you're not mad at yourself for getting some essential oil and smearing it on, before you knew, okay? But so far, I've only seen pictures. I did see a picture of a man who had been sunbathing, and somebody came up and they had lavender it must have been in a carrier oil, and they put it on his back, and they have a picture of that handprint from that olive oil or whatever oil it was with the lavender. So there are people out there in the world, and so it's just good to know. Okay? Better safe than sorry. All right. So now the sugar scrub. Now this time of year we don't have the bugs bothering us so much, but we do have dry skin. Many do. Many people have dry skin. So me especially, I heat with a wood stove, and I just get to, and especially if I'm working in the greenhouse with plants and transplanting, and my hands just get cracked and sore. So what I do is I keep my sugar scrub going. And to do that, I take 2 ounces of olive oil. And like I say, the olive oil is just my go-to because I cook with it and I can play with products like this. But if I really wanted to go crazy, I could use avocado oil, I could use almond oil. There's all kinds of wonderful things to try out for your skin if you're in your salads, if you're so inclined. Okay, so we have 2 ounces of olive oil, and we're going to take 1 cup of sugar. And I'm really trying to ease up on sugar down to maple syrup now. That's okay. But I don't mind putting it on my body. So the recipe calls for 1 cup less 2 tablespoons. And that's just to keep it interesting. I think it's really just so it'll fit in the container. So I'm going to put my sugar right inside my mixing bowl there. And then I'm going to decide what kind of essential oils I might like to put in this sugar scrub. Now, the way I'm going to use the sugar scrub is I'm going to jump in the shower and get it all wet, and then I'm going to take just a little dollop of the sugar scrub and put it in my palm and just kind of work it around like that, and then just put it on my skin until it dissolves. So it takes me about 3-4 palm loads of this to work it. And as it dissolves, then it exfoliates my dead skin. And the oil then kind of helps retain the natural moisture. And when I hop out, you know, I've just got a lot less of that old stuff, flaky stuff. And for my hands, if I've got it there at my sink, I can just do this in the evening when I come home and wash my hands. After I wash, then I'll use the sugar scrub and rinse and dry, and they just feel like new hands. So everybody could like this. So let's use vetiver because that's a manly one. We want to get fellas into having soft hands too, or at least less painful ones. So
Could you exfoliate your face with that?
I could, but here's my tip: is if you're using it on your face, you go real easy, and then you wait 3 days and do it again, you know, until your face gets accustomed to such treatment. But you know, I did it last night, and I'm all right. Didn't come in embarrassed. So I'm going to just take my vetiver and I don't need 10 drops of this. I just need maybe a drop or 2, and it's thick and viscous, and it's made from the roots of that vetiver grass. See how long it takes? Upside down. Now this is going to repel ants as well, and I have a story about that because it's so good to know, because ants are forever bothering us, aren't they? So I have a rural mailbox, you know, one of those metal mailboxes, and it's up there, and ants live in that mailbox whenever they take a notion to, and especially during rainy times. And so I noticed that, you know, they were just moving into my mailbox and having babies, laying eggs, you know, and I'd get my mail out, and all the ants would fly around and get on, and they were little bitey ants, not bad bitey ants, but just enough to be irritating. So one day, I just said, that's enough of that. So I got a sheet of paper that I didn't need. It was probably some trash mail. And I took my vetiver, and that's how come it's empty. I just went blap, 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 and I just put these drops of the vetiver on the paper and put it back in the mailbox and slammed the lid. And then I waited for a little while, and I thought, wonder what happened. And so I opened the lid, and there's these little ants, and they're laying on their backs going. And then these FEMA ants were coming in there trying to rescue the little legs. And after, you know, the next day, all the ants had vacated, except for the little dead ones. And my mail carrier, you know, she was like looking at me funny. You know, we all wave at each other up there, and she'd go. Because of the vetiver, remember how it smells? It's the best smelling mailbox in the whole route. So by leaving that paper in there, impregnated with that viscous, thick oil that is volatile but really slow to end, the ants just didn't come back that season. Now, I have to tell you, the next season they tried to move in, but they were put off again. And so then I was just changing stuff up. I thought, let's see what patchouli does. You know, it's all the time just trying new things. But if you're going to try it against something that is going to keep coming at you, then go for the thick, viscous ones, because they'll hang around longer. All right, I guess I'm ready to put this in there.
These you're using available at a health food store?
Depending on the health food store, but you know, and of course online is the world we live in, so we can get them. So the thing about it is, if you're shopping essential oils, never buy a fragrance, because that's a chemical replica. And it's not the same, and it never will be. People can't do it like plants can. That's all I got to say about that. And you know, you get what you pay for. So if it's a $4 bottle of something, just pass it by. It's not a bargain. You know, usually these guys right here run about $8 or $12, and that's for your generic. That's like Always Save brand of essential oils. So, you know, really do your homework there. Yeah.
Little Rock, that Drug Emporium has a good selection.
Thank you. Okay.
Will the label say like 100% pure?
Yeah, it should say 100% pure, and it should say essential oil on there. And if you really got a serious company, they're going to give you the Latin name of the plant they got it from. You know, that's just should be standard practice. So look for that. So your sugar is going to look like a walk on the beach, you know, when the tide's up. That's what it's going to. Just nice and wet. And then this will go, but not goppy, just moist. And then this will go in a lovely container like this, not glass because it hangs out in the shower with you if you're doing this. And
You didn't put any of the dried herbs in, did you?
I didn't. That's Susan's idea.
Just to fancy it up.
Yeah, and if I had a lot of powdered herb that I wanted to use, I could have, but I sort of like the purity of the sugar oil and essential oil myself.
And you don't have any particles to clog up the shower.
Right. Although so far in using all of Susan's potpourri sugar scrubs, I haven't had a problem. Oh, one other thing that we should always say is don't slip down, because if you put oil, you know, in some old timey tubs especially, you can get slippery. So be careful of that.
Tina, could you use this in a natural bristle brush and use it on your arms, back, and legs?
Yeah. You could. Let's see what y'all think of that. So I do have a thing about this kind of label is by rights it doesn't hang on very long in the shower. So there's that, but always at least start out with a label. Vetiver. And it'll hang on for the day. Okay, any more questions about the essential oils?
What essential oil did you put in the sugar scrub?
Vetiver.
The one that keeps the ants away, right?
Yeah, keep ants right off of you. No ants in your pants.
With the essential oils, you always have to use like the olive oil or something, because if you use them by themselves, they could burn your skin or.
Thank you for asking that question. So the question is if you use them straight on your skin, will they burn you or hurt you? So the first thing you should always really try to do is dilute them, because some will burn you or leave a blister or in other ways irritate you. So that's the sort of the general teacher's rule. But what I do is, if I have a trigger bite, then I'll take tea tree and I'll put it right on the bite. Or I'll put it right on the toenail if I'm killing toenail fungus. Lavender doesn't seem to bother me, but like I said, there was the guy with the print on his back. The only one that's ever really bothered me straight was cinnamon oil. Whew, that was intense. Yes.
Someone told me you can make a face scrub using baking soda, because it's not as rough as sugar. So you could take your baking soda and just do an essential oil with a little with a carrier, and that the it'll scrub, but it won't scratch your face.
Yeah.
And it dissolves, you know, because it's so when you.
Baking soda, just like scrubbing your sink.
But
Yeah.
it really is. I've done it before, and it's really nice.
Thank you.
It's just gentle, but it does scrub.
I'm going to give that a shot, maybe tonight. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I bought some essential oil, it was lemon,
Mhm.
and I thought, oh, because sometimes I don't have fresh lemons in the house, so I used that instead,
Yeah.
and it was horrible. My husband said, what was that? He said, throw it away. So what can I do with the lemon oil?
So the lemon oil here's what I do. I'll take my I use all for washing clothes because it's fragrance free, and I take just a couple of ounces of that all and put water with it, and then I put my essential oils and shake, and I use that for washing my dishes because I don't have a dishwasher, you know, and I use it for cleaning my floors, and it's so brightening. It makes me so cheerful about cleaning because it's lemon. It's just,
It's not a food item.
but no, I wouldn't use it for food. And there may be an extract out there that's supposed to be lemon flavoring for something, but for the essential oil, just use it for cleaning because it's very antiseptic, and it is cheerful to smell it. You know, it brightens like sunshine. So I wouldn't throw it away, but I would just transfer it to. You put it with the baking soda and scrub the sink. Or in the foot powder, yes. Now, there is something about the citrus oils that they concentrate sun photons on the skin. So you wouldn't use it for tanning or for moisturizing the skin. I wouldn't use it as a bug repellent, you know, that I'm going to put on and then go and have my be exposed to sunlight. But otherwise, you know, if you had it on your hands, you went outside and did some gardening, it won't hurt you if you've used it for water, but if you don't put it in an oil carrier and wear it all day. So that goes for orange and lemon and tangerine, all those expressed from the peel of the citrus fruits. Don't use those for on your skin unless you're going to stay in the dark for a while. Okay. Yes, ma'am. I'll get you, and then this lady right.
This recipe here on page 3 says add the oil and glycerin.
Yeah, glycerin is if I'm making this product for sale and I want it to have a long shelf life, then I can add the glycerin and it'll sort of seal against moisture invasion while it's hanging out on the shelf.
How much glycerin do you put? Do you mix it in with it and it rises, or do you just put it on top?
I would just put it in with the regular carrier oil.
How much glycerin do you use?
I might, to the 2 ounces, I might use a 1/4 teaspoon.
Okay.
Not much.
How many drops of essential oil did you use? You say a few drops. Is that 2 or 3 or 5 or 6?
Yeah, it depends on the essential oil. So in the case of the vetiver, it's very thick and viscous. Patchouli, thick and viscous, got a big loud smell, so I might use just 1, 2, or 3 drops. But a light oil like the lavender that's it's very volatile and comes right out of the bottle, then I might go as much as 10.
So the thicker, the less.
Right, you don't need as much. It's going to hang around and it's going to do the job without having to use too much.
Someone told me not to shake your oil bottle, that you should just let the oil drip out.
Oh yeah?
I mean, I don't know why, or, you know, do you know anything?
I've never heard that, but yeah, I always want to help it.
Yeah, 'cause
But
it takes,
these orifices do kind of take your patience to kind of figure out how to.
I just didn't know if anything was a fraction oil.
Yeah, well, you never know because it's a microscopic thing. And then
Can you use an oil in any type of hair treatment?
I can tell you what I've done. So if I didn't And it's often, more often than not, I don't like the smell of what they decide I want to smell like. So I have taken chamomile oil, and of course, because I want to help my blonde highlights, but I might use rosemary if I had darker hair, or I might anyway. So I have, and I would just use 5 or 7 drops in a. I would probably not like to use a thick viscous one because then I would make my hair coarse. I want something that's going to evaporate fast. And lemon could be good. Yeah. Yeah. Just watch you don't go lay in the sun and you bleach your hair. But
So you
we
just
used to
drop
do
that and put it in your hair?
in the shampoo is what we were talking about, or in the conditioner or something. Yeah, I play around. Please don't get in trouble and make it my fault, that's all. But the thing is we're empowered. We should make the rules happen for ourselves that we're not going to get hurt or mess anything up, and then see that we can keep the bugs back, we can heal up our toenail funguses, we can not suffer so long, our trigger and tick bites and so forth, and it just makes a happier life for everyone.
Is there shelf life to an oil?
The citrus oils are shorter lived than the more viscous, deeper ones, and so forth. So if you have a concern about that, just always buy small quantities. Unless you're going to go off into making lots of stuff, then keep it small.
Now, what oil do you like for tick bite?
The tea tree's kind of good, sure is.
She asked a question about the hair, and I just thought, looking at the olive oil bottle up there, it just been a couple of months ago, I read in an article about just before you wash your hair, a couple hours before you wash your hair, just take some olive oil, put it on your hands, and just rub it through your hair and just kind of work it in your hair.
Yeah.
And I tried it, and it made my hair really so much better. I mean, it was just healthier.
Yeah.
So,
Happy hair. And then you went ahead and washed it.
yes, and then I washed it.
Yeah.
So after a couple hours, just kind of put more moisture in it and just made it look healthier. It's a great idea.
That's what the Italians have been known for a long time. Okay, so let's switch gears now. So the plants that we think of when we think of herbs is parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme, right? Yeah. And these are the plants from the Mediterranean region, especially France, Spain, and Italy, Greece, that northern shore of the Mediterranean, where it's rocky and it's dry. It's arid. It's really arid. They have winter when we're having summer, and summer when we're having winter. And is that true? No. Here's what I wanted to say. When it's winter, they're getting their rain. And when it's summer, they're having their dry. That's what I meant to say. So, they are also just a little closer to the equator than we are. But nonetheless, in northern Arkansas, I've got rosemary varieties and bay trees that are living outside. And they're going to be mad. And I'm going to have to do a lot of pruning. But they came through last winter, and they're doing just fine. So, they don't have a deciduous forest. They have olive trees. But they don't have oaks and cherries and all those humid. They make humidity. That's what our deciduous eastern forest does. It makes humidity, and it also makes a whole lot of leaves that fall down on top of our Mediterranean herbs. So we're sort of at that kind of a problem when it comes to being up in Mountain View and down here even in Little Rock, as we have that humidity thing and we have that acidity and in the soil from those leaves. And we also tend to want to plant lots of plants really close together, you know, make a solid wall of things. And these are from their native lands, sparse. It's hot, and the sun is baking down, and it's really dry all summer, and then in the wintertime, they get some water. So once I started understanding something more about the climate of the Mediterranean and also the soil makeup of that area, then I started thinking about minerals as a soil additive. I came up with these recipes based on rocks. And I really am happy to be here because this place actually offers green sand in bags. And I just took a little ride out there at the lunch break, and they have big piles of granite meal, and I really have a hard time getting granite where I'm at, especially in sacks. So granite, green sand, but oyster shells, this is something you have to get at the feed store for your chickens. You know how chickens are. They like to peck around on hard things, and then it gets in their gullet, and it helps them break down their food. And then as it breaks down, then the calcium gets loose in their bloodstream, comes back around, makes harder eggs. So the oyster shells that have been crushed, good in the garden because they got that calcium. And they've got also all of the minerals that the oyster was gathering in to when it was making its house right there in the ocean. So that's really interesting kind of an amendment. And I got that idea with the granite meal and the oyster shell from the folks at Williamsburg, because they were growing beautiful herb gardens around old Williamsburg, and they had the humidity problem, and this is how they solved it. So with that, I started running around and making these ideas, because I had murdered so many Mediterranean herbs at the Ozark Folk Center State Park, and I began to really doubt that I was a good gardener anymore, you know. But it was because up there our soils are made from the weathered sandstone, and no lime, you know, no limestone really in my area on that mountain. And so it's like just talc, dense, small particles, and it's just hardly any fun at all to work with, except for putting lots of compost in it. So I did the compost thing, but still the herbs kept dying of these fungal diseases and just not thriving at all. So once I started putting in the minerals, then I started seeing some success. So I just wanted to share that a little bit with you. So here's an example of the, I call it a mulch, Mediterranean mulch, but it's a blend, and it's got the green sand and the granite meal and the soft rock phosphate and the volcanic rock. A lot of people like lava rock just as a pretty thing to put in their gardens, but you know, if you have a few of these actually buried up in the soil, it adds a lot of air and porosity and other kinds of minerals that are deep in the core of the earth. You know, it's just like, this is helpful when all you have is sandstone. And then there's the compost. How many people make compost? Oh yeah, it's the choir. Yeah. Okay. So this is my traveling plant food, fast plant food. And so we got the green grasses, about 30% of that to the carbon, which is the leaves, and moisture and oxygen. And you've got something that plants will love. And you know, we took a little ride and saw some test gardens over here by the bulk supplies that they have back there, and they showed that the compost really grew the best plants. It's full of life, the compost is. So good for y'all for doing that. So after amending the soil with peat moss, which is exactly the dead opposite of what Mediterranean plants want. Because peat moss is dead plants, you know, and they want rocks. So I started always amending with compost to feed the microorganisms in the soil, and then adding these minerals when I plant a plant in the soil. But if I'm planting a plant in a container, then I start with the Pro Mix. See, I use granite meal in a big way. I have to keep it in 5-gallon containers and get it in sacks. And if you can get it local now, what I saw over there is big, chunkier, but I don't think the plants care how big it is, because it's not going to become soluble. The nutrients that are in granite meal do not become soluble in this lifetime to plants. That's a lot of acid we're talking about, but it causes grit. And so these herbs with their shallow root systems can penetrate through that, and then the penetration is there, and the drainage, it helps somewhat the drainage. It just makes air pockets happen so that you got some oxygen as well. It's just a weird thing to try to explain, but it seems to work. So I take the Pro Mix, which has been inoculated with bio fungicide. So it's just a bunch of lovely little bacteria that multiply when stuff gets wet. And so the bacteria multiplies so quickly that the big fungus that's going to attack the roots of these plants just doesn't have a chance. And not only that, the little bacteria actually feed on some of the fungus. So it's worth a little extra money to me to get this stuff, to get it, the bio fungicide kind of growing mix. And it's got no soil in it at all. It's just got pea moss, vermiculite, and perlite. So what I do is I'll take my homemade compost and I put about 30%, you know, about 30% to 70%. And I always just inoculate this pot and soil with, or which is soilless mix, and my own compost, and add my minerals. When that comes back around, I'm going to add a little of that into this too. So we'll wait a second. So I could just, here I'm just going to take the individual ingredients and talk about it. So the granite mill's over there in big piles, and what they use it for is pathways here. But I would love a little bit of that just worked right into my soil. Of course, if it's in the path, it's going to make its way in to your soil structure. So a little granite meal and green sand. I should pass this around just because it's so pretty. So green sand is also called glauconite, and it's from shallow seas that have dried up. And what it has is little silica. Silica is a really trace element, but that's what makes up sand. And it has the ability to attract moisture to it. So while it is a grit that helps drainage, it also attracts moisture and it'll kind of hold it there. And in the summer, can't we use some of that? So I'll start that this way because that's cool. So it's got the K of the NPK in it and trace elements, because after all, it's been on the ocean floor. So minerals are happening in seawater and you're getting it there. Iron oxide, what's what makes it green. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and put some oyster shells in there. You can overdo oyster shells because it's lime, and if you're in Texas, you already have an alkaline soil. But being that we're here in Arkansas, we have a little bit more of an acid soil, so these plants like the alkalinity, so we can add this oyster shell, and we're adding the grit, big chunks, and at the same time we're adding a really slowly releasing lime source. And then, anything else? Soft rock phosphate. So the soft rock phosphate that I get it's just a rock that's been powdered. It's not been treated with any acid. But the compost slowly adds humic acid and carbonic acid, both of those, to this, and over time it makes a solution that can be used by plants. So it's real slow. So I'm not upsetting any balances, even if I overdo it and use a small handful, a large handful instead of a small handful. It's just you can't hardly go wrong because it's not been treated with an acid.
And what's that called?
Soft rock phosphate. So it's the P of the NPK that I'm adding. So
Is this recipe in your book?
it's in your handout.
This, with the meal in it?
It's on the back.
Does it say soft rock?
It's
Where do you buy that, soft rock phosphate?
maybe here, but absolutely on nitron. See the Mediterranean? Yeah.
That's what you're.
Yep.
What was the question? Soft rock?
Soft rock phosphate.
I'll check.
Okay. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. This is my old friend Rosemary. She and I have been friends for about 20 years, maybe more.
Wow.
And she's been on the road with me several times. And she goes, "No! Don't do it!"
Is that why it's one side?
When we first started together, there were two, and it was a half wreath. And eventually this side died. And I even had worked one down and pinned it. But in the end, it's just done what it wanted instead of what I wanted. So I like it just like it is. So, and it's been in this very same Italian planter for all of its life too. And so the key to this long life of this plant, even though you might not believe it, is that it gets root pruned and it gets taken for rides. So you have to do it like a cake when you have a plant this age. And what they do is they, any container plant that's living eventually is going to get pot bound. And that's what happens to this rosemary here, because we haven't had a talk together in quite a while. And I'm going to take it from this angle. I need me to poke that hole right there.
Hold you both.
Okay, or how about I'll pull. There we go. Thank you so much. I did need an assistant. Whew. All right, so see how it's come right up against all sides of the container? And the lovely thing though is you see white roots along with some dark roots. Can you see it?
Yeah.
So the white roots are the happy ones. The darker ones are the ones that are given up. And can you sort of notice from that side how thick the roots are on the bottom? So what this plant needs is a good root pruning. And roots, just like the tops, are stimulated to grow when you prune them. So I'm going to take off a good inch all the way around the surface. That's mainly because I need to be able to work some fresh soil in there.
How often do you do this?
Oh, about once or twice a year. And it has come near death, in between talks. But and this is a prostrate kind of rosemary. You know, you've got your upright kind and your prostrate kind. And so it's less hardy in the ground. So it could not live up there by me in north central Arkansas in the ground. It has to be a captive to live. Now, Marianne King of Pinewood Gardens, you know who I mean? Does all those beautiful native plants. Has I've seen her prostrate rosemaries grow outside for years and years.
Is that a really sharp knife?
It's a steak knife. This vegetarian has steak knives for plant pruning.
Because that looked easier than I would think
Oh,
it
yeah,
was.
yeah.
Okay. All right. So now we're going to set them over here. And now, air kills roots. If you let them dry out, the plant's going to die. So we've got to get after this, because I've just done a shocking thing. I'd like to see a bark. Oh, I know. I'm going to take a little lava rock, because I have 2 big holes.
So now that's the lava rock you buy in the bag?
Yeah.
Like landscape.
Yeah.
All right.
But see, feel how, I mean, it's full of air. And so this is going to help aerate soil if you have dense soil like I've got. And so it's very, just a part of the whole change your soil structure idea of gardening, I guess, that I've had to take up. And it looks good when you space your Mediterraneans out and make them look more like they do at home. Full sun and great drainage, that's the 2 big keys. And then if you
So
don't,
would lavender be a Mediterranean?
yeah,
I could never get lavender.
that's because it needs full sun and great drainage and rocks. It needs minerals. Okay. And then I'll set it back in there and always leave enough. I'm going to have to take a little bit of my soil out because I made too much in there. I need to have a place for the water to pool up at the top while it sinks in. Did y'all understand what I just said? Okay. So people tend to either plant too deep or not deep enough. And see at the very top, you see how this kind of gritty stuff is? That's that same mulch that I've been talking about, and we really practice this. And it just seems that the plant loves it.
So you're saying, so you leave enough at the top so
So
when you
water, it can go, yeah, have a place to pool up while it's sinking, so it can sink in. Now, it's got all this fresh, new soil with nutrients that it really enjoys. It doesn't need high nitrogen, especially in the winter, but ever really. The Mediterranean herbs are used to low nitrogen soils, and so to make really delicious essential oils for cooking, in this case, you want to not have a lot of nitrogen, but that doesn't mean you don't want the phosphorus and the potassium and the calcium and the trace elements. And so that's the thing that we got to remember. Fertility is not just about nitrogen. Yay!
Do you think you've already root pruned that once this year? Do you think you did?
Well, I can't recall.
Because it really got hot down. I bet you
Well,
did.
it grows good. Grows good. Okay, now here's the Mediterranean mulch that just came back, and we're just gonna Put that right on the top. And then it has a little friend that travels around with it. This is one of those bromeliad kind of air plants, so we'll just put it back there because they become buddies. And I think this one must be from a savanna. I don't know.
So you just leave that on top.
Yeah, it's been working great. And then sometimes I find pretty rocks or crystals or something, but
Are you gonna water it?
yeah, I am right now. Put it right down here and at least water it good for the ride home. And we're going to have to ride together in the truck.
Hope you don't run into bad weather on the way home.
No, I don't think so. I think if you're with me, we'll just let it wait until after midnight.
Maybe never. Yeah, it just gets all better.
Okay. Whew. What do you think of that? Okay.
Now, do you just compost that again? or-
Yeah, this can be composted because that plant does not have any infectious diseases that I know of. And so, there's its pretty rock. And so, yes. Now, if a plant did die of a disease, or if it's a nutgrass, it's not going in the compost. No nutgrass. And I have another one. There's a mulberry weed we call the biblical herb tares, it keeps on sending offspring, and it's like aphids. You know, aphids are all female except for a few boys in the fall of the year, and they come out of their mother's wombs able and willing to make babies. Don't need males at all. So that's how come aphids go like that on you. It's all girls, and they're all doing what they want. So the mulberry weed's the same way. As soon as it's this big, it just past its true leaves, it's making little ripe seeds, and it's throwing them down on your earth. And they're from Japan, and they came in with the horticulture industry and spread all over my garden. So they're not allowed in my compost if we can help it or not. But for the most part, just about everything goes in my compost that is not meat or fat, and we just keep on making good stuff happen.
Is that a mulberry grass?
Mulberry weed is the common name for it. It has little ball shapes of, and not very pretty flowers at all, if you can even see them. And it just looks like it's everywhere. No, it's more kin to, I don't even know who it's kin to. It makes some mini seeds that you'd almost think it was a composite, or anyway. It's just another one of those. If you've been gardening in Arkansas for a long time, about 20 years ago, you noticed there was this sudden new weed in your garden. That's it. It's the mulberry.
Is it related to the mulberry tree or the mulberry?
No, they just call it mulberry weed.
It's called chambersburg.
What's that?
The foot powder?
What about it?
Would you pass it around?
I would.
Good, lucky you.
Thank you for asking. Watch, it'll get on those black pants.
It's okay, they're washable.
Okay. So
The Mediterranean mulch work good with other plants too.
it would, the ones, you wouldn't want it around your azaleas or tomatoes because it would tend to adjust it over to the alkaline side. But the compost and all that worked really good with the rest of them. Cactus would like it. Anything that's native to Texas or New Mexico would like it. No.
Would like the Mediterranean.
Yeah, because it's got all that calcium and so forth. So I would use it.
Oleander.
Yeah, it might. Although oleander really likes New Orleans, where that's a lot of acid soil. Yeah. So I'm just guessing off the top of my head, but I would use it in a cactus garden for sure, and it would look really pretty. And we've used it around aloe veras for that. That's been good. Okay. All right. Okay. Everybody had a good time? Yeah. Okay. Me too.